You're listening to the Snob OS Podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And welcome back to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We are back with another episode of our Snob OS Show. This is episode 305 of our show, and we're going to get into some things. We're going to talk about iOS 18.3.2. We're going to talk about Siri having some issues. We're going to talk about Google starting to track all devices. And we're going to talk about a new social media app on the block that I really am into, and I think you should be too. So that is coming up on this show. And as per usual, we're going to get right into it with the lowdown. But before we do, we want to make sure we give a shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. They help us keep the lights on. If you want to be a Patreon supporter and help support the show, please go to patreon.com/snoboscast. We definitely appreciate all the love that we can get. So moving right along to the show, like I mentioned, we always start with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. And I'll be honest, ain't a lot of conversations, ain't a lot of news going on in the world of Apple this week, with the exception of there is a new update, iOS 18.3.2. And it's pretty much the same as previous updates, to where they are patching some bugs. There's not really new information coming out as far as iOS 18.3.2. There may be a little bit of some new features, but most of it is patches. Most of it is the bug fixes. There is a bug fix, not a bug fix. There is a security breach that let me give you the quotes from Apple. Provides important bug fixes, security updates, and addresses a issue that may prevent playback on some streaming content. That's pretty much the gist of iOS 18.3.2. One of the things I do want to note real quick is people are reporting that if you do download or update to iOS 18.3.1, it will automatically turn on Apple Intelligence by default. I think what the reasons why people have issues with that is because it's a battery drain, it's a battery suck, and I think it's a data suck as well. So for those people who don't want to deal with the battery drain and may have some problems with data, yeah, I can see why people are, a little upset that downloading 18.3.2 would enable Apple Intelligence by default. So if those are your concerns, definitely turn that off. But what is your take on Apple putting out a bunch of these updates that are just bug fixes, and patches? Are they gearing up for something else, or is this just par for the course for Apple nowadays?
I think they're probably gearing up for something else. I think maybe 18.4 is coming, where they're trying to get it there. But I think the other biggest thing is I'm seeing that iOS 19, which will likely be announced in June at WWDC, apparently they're saying this is the biggest overhaul and reinvention of iOS since, I think, don't quote me because I might be wrong, but I want to say since iOS 7 or something, since one of the lower versions of iOS. They're saying that this is going to be completely redesigned and a completely different look. And there's been whispers that it's being pushed back, delayed because of the issues that they're having. So I'm thinking that they are trying to prime iOS 18 period as they get ready to roll into 19, and they're trying to make as many incremental fixes as they can, so that when they do switch over to whatever this new iOS 19 is going to look like, they'll hopefully have gotten rid of most of the bugs and be able to carry those into iOS 19. Because again, you want to build on what you already have. And they want to make sure that what they're creating with this new thing over here is going to be compatible with this version and that they don't lose, especially security updates, and especially some of these new features that they brought in to iOS 18. And it appears to me that that's kind of what's backloading this iOS 18.3 and presumably dot 4 is coming up of on what is this new iOS 19 really going to look like and what its impact is going to be. So I think they're just trying to shore up and make this version as stable as possible so that as they go into whatever this new thing is a fairly seamless and you know upgrade. So that's kind of my guess, but yeah, that's the best guess that I have because
Mhm.
it doesn't seem like outside of the bug fix, there's really no feature improvements or additions that will make you go, "Ooh, I need to get this." It's more just kind of like stopgaps to keep the thing on the rail.
All right. All right. I just want to make sure I note that iOS 18.3.2 is not the only thing that Apple released. Apple also released macOS Sequoia 15.3.2, Vision OS 2.3.2, and tvOS 18.3.1. So if you've got an Apple TV, if you've got a Vision Pro, if you've got a Mac, there are also updates for you as well. All right, moving on
And
to the
also
next story
today
that I
is
go ahead.
the we're on the today's the 12th. If you're listening to the show live or if you're listening to it Friday, you can purchase the new, I got an email, I don't know if you got it. But the new MacBook Airs and the new
Oh yeah,
iPad
got it.
Air and the new iPad 11, those are ready to go in store and pick up. They are available today if you're in the market. They're here. If you didn't get a pre-order in, you can go and pick those up too.
All right, sounds good. All right, moving on to the next story. I titled this one, "Does Siri Need to Get It Together?" You kind of alluded to this
Gonna say
in
yes.
your statement in the previous story. Uh, um, everybody's talking about AI. Everything is AI, AI, everything, AI, everything, right? Apple does its traditional, let's sit back, let's see what the environment, let's see what the landscape looks like. And then they released this past year their own version of AI. They call it Apple Intelligence. And it's supposed to go on the newer phones. It came out on the iPhone 16s, and you could also download it on the 15 Pros and the 15 Pro Maxes. Fast forward to recently, Apple Intelligence is now starting to roll out to more devices, including iPads and the iPhone 16e that just came out. So Apple's rolling out Apple Intelligence, and it links or hooks nicely into Siri. So when you ask a homegirl a question, in addition to just using traditional Siri, it's also using what we thought was Apple Intelligence to be more natural, to dig more into your data and surface more information that could feel more like an assistant. Well, when Apple Intelligence first launched, they said only these features will be available. We waited. They announced a little bit more Apple Intelligence features like summary text messages, summary emails, the ability to do some proofreading. Apple does. I'm learning slowly but surely that Apple Intelligence does an okay job at, you give it a block of text and say, I want to create a bullet point out of this, and it'll do a bullet point, or I want to create a summary, basic grammar / proofreading, writing stuff.
Mhm.
But as far as the personal assistant thing that all of these companies, including Apple, has been pushing, has been non-existent. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this more natural Siri to where I don't have to be so formal when I'm talking to her.
Mhm.
You got to get the right prompt word. You get the right dictation, and you have to speak clearly. You can't use no slang. Where I'm waiting, people are waiting on that version of Siri to where I can
Or
talk naturally.
conversational Siri.
She Conversational Siri. That's what the model for AI is. You think of Gemini, you think of Claude, you think of Gronk, you think of all these other AIs, Copilot, you think of all the other AIs that these other companies have put out, and they are pushing for and have had some success. I ain't gonna say it's perfect, but they've had some success in pull it draw rolling out this more natural. I don't even call it
Language.
assistant. I don't even call it assistant. More like a partner. The videos
Mhm.
that I've seen, like with Kiki Palmer. She's laying in
Mhm.
the bed talking about her dreams, and the
Mhm.
Gemini AI is like, well, dreams about spaghetti have something to do with creativeness or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Those are the commercials that Google's putting out with Gemini. We already know about Chat GPT and all the things it can do. Whatever Apple's doing, they ain't nowhere near that. They are still trying to get this natural thing together. And like you mentioned, some of that stuff has been delayed even further. We were thinking that when that stuff came out when it was announced in
Mhm.
WWDC and when it rolled out onto phones in the fall, we were
Mhm.
thinking March is the time that Apple would then finally say, bet
Here
iOS
it is.
18, right, iOS 18.4, all these cool new things. So we can join the cool kids and I can talk to Siri and she can have a conversation with me. That ain't the case. And it looks like it's been delayed even further. So knowing that Apple likes to hang back and not be the first, but be the best, what
Mhm.
is your, I guess, recap review of Siri and Apple Intelligence thus far?
It's harder than they thought. That's
Right.
that's pretty much it. It's harder than they thought. I've done software development and, architecting for AI systems, and it's always a lot harder than people outside the tech bubble and
Mhm.
even people inside the tech bubble. He's like, we have all these smart people that know all of these things. Duh. How, this is going to be easy. This is light work. And we're going to come out with this and we're going to just blaze a new trail, a new frontier, and everybody's going to be wishing they were us and using our products. No, this shit's hard. It's really hard, especially when you
Mhm.
have to take in all of the different components. You want a conversational assistant. You have to think about conversational styles. You have to think about accents, inflections, and the accuracy of how this works. So there is a lot of smart people doing this work. And no matter how smart you are, when you're frontiering, when you're creating a thing, you're learning as you go. You try something and then it's like, nope, let's try something else. And you
Mhm.
have to think about it in these cycles of how this works. It doesn't just happen overnight, it doesn't just happen in a week. Most times, most of if you're in this agile methodology, you work in 2 week sprints. So every 2 weeks you have a list of things you want to try and get done. In those 2 weeks you work to get those things done. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you have to push it down the road because it's not working the way you want, and you do it all over. That's why it's iterative. You keep trying, and even when you get it right, you're trying to improve it. And so you have to go through the cycle again. And it's one of those things where, as much as consumers as I want it now. You told me you could do it. You show me videos of what it's gonna look like. Why don't I have it? Give it to me now. I have to have it now. You said you were gonna give it to me and you did it. So why? I'm gonna piss on you and call you all kinds of lazy or know what you're doing. And the fact of the matter is, you go into it thinking, yeah, we got this. We've done, versions of this and it's worked great. Um, so yeah, it's no big deal. And then you get a wrinkle. And then the wrinkle just kind of cascades and you're like, you know what, bruh, This is hard. We got to rethink our approach. And I think that's what it is. And that's when they say, it's being pushed back, it's being pushed back. They've run into unintended situations and circumstances that they're going to have to rethink the approach and try something else because what they're doing isn't up to their standard, or it's not in line with the roadmap going down the road. So it's all these things that come into play. And it's easy as a consumer because, again, you showed it to us. We saw a video. So that means that you're done, basically. You're just waiting, fine tuning. When a lot of times that's not necessarily the case. And we are seeing the results of those types of things now with us not getting what we were promised when we were promised it.
Right. And I think we've been patient. I think most people up until now has, of course, the tech blogs are going to, cry, scream bloody murder,
Yeah.
but I think most people have known it's like, all right, I've got this new phone. Apple announces cool stuff, but we got to wait, and they said, oh, new stuff will be announced when the phones came out in September,
Hmm.
October. Apple said, you got to wait for a little bit. And we waited until
Hmm.
November came around and they announced, little things here. And then they said, well, the real stuff, the natural language processing, the cool assistant stuff isn't coming until, beginning of 2025.
Mm.
January rolled by, February rolled by, and now it's March. And now we're getting words out of Cupertino that the stuff we've been really waiting on
Not
may
ready.
be right, may not. It's not only that it's ready, it may not be ready for another year. So that
Mm.
means WWDC 2025 is rolling around. It may not be ready then. That's WWDC is when they announce iOS 19, but we'll be interested to see how much of any or what do they announce as it relates to Apple Intelligence. So much so that when the iPhone 17 comes out in the fall, this
Hmm.
natural language Apple Intelligence may not even be ready then, and we may have to wait until this time next year,
Next year.
2026, when
And people are not
Apple,
that patient.
and people are not that patient, and tech blogs are definitely going to count the days, count the hours,
Hammer.
count the minutes.
Yeah.
And what I hope, two things, right? I think Apple is still standing on the fact that we're not going to be like everybody else. We're not going
Yeah.
to do it like ChatGPT. We're not going to do it like Gemini. We're not going to do it like Copilot. We're going to do Apple's thing. Unfortunately, that's going to take some time.
Hmm.
And then unfortunately, it's going to take even longer than what we said. So
Hmm.
one, the natives might get restless, right?
Yeah.
The second thing is, heaven forbid that Apple doesn't get it right and they have to backpedal,
Roll it back.
and because we've seen it done. We've seen it done with your precious Air Power Mat. We've
Mm.
seen it done with the Apple Car. We've seen it done with Apple CarPlay. They were supposed to be
Mhm.
able to take over your whole console and give you all of this
Mhm.
driving data and give you all this extra vehicle information
All
when,
these analytics.
right, and all these analytics, when CarPlay is still just infotainment off my phone. That's all
Yeah.
CarPlay is, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen it to where Apple has to backtrack on stuff that they've, promoted. I would
Yeah.
hate for Apple Intelligence to be the next round of things, along with maybe we've all given the Vision Pro, said, oh, this is just this is a commercial grade thing, and eventually they're going to come out with the Vision Pro Lite, and they're just testing it. They're just testing it because they're going to come out
Are
with the,
they?
the right. So that leads me to believe that the Vision Pro, the Air Power Mat, to the Apple Car, Apple CarPlay, and now this Apple Intelligence may be one of the number of black eyes that
Mhm.
Apple will have to deal with in the coming months, if not years. And I would hate to see that happen. I would hate to see them just revert back to a regular old prompt Siri and kind of abandon the whole intelligence part. But
Yeah.
how How does
What can you
Apple
do?
prove to us that they're moving in the right direction right now? I don't
Yeah.
know if I can say.
And for me is I understand from the consumer side, as being a consumer of Apple products, I want it. I really want it. Whatever you got to do, get it to me. But on the engineering side of me, I understand what it takes to get something like this to market. So it's kind of like you can see both sides. And honestly, with the way the market, I mean, not just the tech market, just we've seen the stock market plummet,
Mhm.
this past week. If I were them, I hate to say it, I'd lean into it. I'd be like, we love to get this out, but the way the market's going, we're having to make some cutbacks.
Reorganize,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, like really kind of lead into it because that might really be the only thing that kind of saves face for them
Mhm.
because this doesn't look good at all.
Nope.
But at the same time, do you want a crappy product where Apple's going to get, shunned and beat down? Or do you want to delay it where Apple is going to get shunned and beat down? There's really no win for this for them. It's just the way they frame how they got to
Yep.
where they are now.
Yep. They're definitely going to have to pick their poison on this one if they don't get
Yep.
it out sooner than what people are reporting.
Right.
So, all right. We they, there's another subject in the lowdown that Nica was about to break down during our pre-show for our Snobbish supporters, but it seems too
Mhm.
juicy to just leave it to the Patreon supporters. We're sorry, we love you, but I think the masses need to hear Nica's story as it relates to the new Apple Invites app. So, Nica, take over. Tell us about your experience with the Apple Invites app.
So, I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, well, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before was my birthday. I travel on my birthday. And this year I want to do something different because my friends always complain and say I don't do anything for my birthday stateside. So I decided to, hey, let's go out and have a cocktail night. Because I really didn't want to do anything huge because I'd already done the birthday thing. So found this super cute um, cocktail lounge in my neighborhood, relatively close to my neighborhood. Super excited about it. Saw it on Instagram from an influencer. So I was like, cool, bet, let's do this. And I was like, ding, 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 it's the perfect time to use Apple Invites. If you don't remember, this is an app that was released maybe a few weeks ago. Everybody was losing their stuff about it because everyone was so excited about it. Everyone's like, why is everyone so excited about this app? Because what this app is supposed to do is supposed to basically replace Evites, Punchbowl, Paperless, all these apps where you have to create invitations and send out notifications to people who you want to invite to an event. So I pull up the app. I open it up. I click basically start. I start to build out my invitation. It looks gorgeous. I was able to use images from my own photo album, even though they have like some templates. And so I kept this cute photo. I was able to like make it all pretty and cute. And I was like, awesome. And I'm like moving along, I'm like so excited. So I clicked like the next button after I'd, put the pictures in, put in all the details. And so I'm thinking the hard part's done. Now all I have to do is just invite the people to the event to send it out. So I go in, of course, it's like, do you want us to have access to your contacts? Sure, why not? Select contacts. I just import them all in. At first, I was just going to do the individual ones. I was like, no, I might as well just do everybody for future reference. So I did that. I entered in everybody's name, and voila, everybody's there. So normally, when you do these invites, you just click on the person's name, right? Click on the name, select, get a little check mark, get a little check mark. First error. No, you don't get a check mark. You have to send the invite out per person.
Oh, come on
So I
now.
invited 13 people. I had to send this via text or email per person. It wasn't a mass send. You had to send it per person. And if you remember when we talked about this, Apple's like, this is good for both Apple and non Apple people. It's like, yay. No. I had some Android people say, "Hey, I can't see or accept the invite because it's not coming up." And they were like, "I have an old Apple ID. Let me try and find it." Blah blah blah. I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Let me send you," because it gives you the option to send
Mm-mm.
a
To send a
individualized
link.
invitation. So it goes out to, it's an invite link that's specifically for a person, or you can do a public version. So you can either you can share it or you can send a link. And so I was like, don't worry about it.
Hmm.
I'll just send you the public one and you will be able to do it. And I'm like, okay, cool, bet. Send that. Nope. Still can't get into it. Still can't see it. Doesn't work. And I was like, okay, let me go and see what Google says. And Google says, hey, if you want to send this to a non Apple person, you
Hmm.
have to send the link to them via email. I was like, okay, cool, bet. I was like, hold that thought. I sent the invite via email. No, still can't access it, still can't see it. And I'm like, oh, it's only a couple people. And I was like, I'll just, take a screenshot and just send you all the information separately.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then most of my friends have iPhones. They
Hmm.
couldn't get into it,
Oh,
they
come
couldn't
on.
see it. And the worst part of it is, they have this option because when you send it out via text, it just goes into the text thread that you already have with the person.
Hmm.
It doesn't create something new, or it's not like it's housed within the Invites app. No,
Hmm.
it just goes to their text message and the thread that you already have with that person. And so what happened was, when I made the invitation, I was out of town. I was in a different time zone. And when I got back to Atlanta, I sent it out and it still had the time zone of where I created the invite. So when I went to look at it in my calendar, I was like, why does it say 9:30 instead of 7:30? I realized that's what it was. So then I went into the app to change it to the correct time.
Hmm.
They weren't able to see the new correct time.
Oh my
They weren't able to see the
god.
new correct
This
time.
is it's supposed to be, you create it once, whatever changes
Mm,
you make, those
mm,
changes get updated to the
mhm,
individual users or via the link. And that seems like
mhm.
that is not to the case.
And honestly, that's not even the worst part. So,
Oh, that's not the worst part.
um, no, it's not. So in the invite, they have this megaphone that says send note. So basically, you can send like a blast message out to everybody, because I ended up changing the time, and I ended up, because some people couldn't do later, I ended up pushing, the drinks portion back, adding a dinner invite, and I sent the note out. Nobody got that. It didn't come up at all. But on my version of the invite, it said that it
It
was
looks
sent.
legit.
It showed that it was sent. And people who were able to accept the invite, it showed everybody who accepted as going, and the people who couldn't come, or the people who didn't respond. So I went to a friend's house Friday, and I was telling her, about the change, because she hadn't seen it. And I was like, well, let me just see your phone and let me see the invite.
Hmm.
I went to the Apple Invites. She didn't have the app, but
Right.
it's in your iCloud.
Okay.
So she opened the iCloud. Do you know that the invite didn't show up in her Invites app on the cloud? Wasn't there.
At all.
Wasn't there. This is the worst Apple app since Apple Maps tried to send me to a ditch.
Right.
0 out of
Right. I
10.
can't think.
Tomato, tomato, tomato. Do not
Right.
recommend.
I do
It
not
was the
recommend.
worst. And I was like, so I ended up having to just make a group chat. I was trying to avoid making a group chat
WhatsApp.
with,
Hmm.
yeah, with my different friend groups, because everybody doesn't know everybody, phone numbers, they don't know who's responding. But I eventually had to make just a regular group message through iMessage, and just send out responses that way. And then you know how that goes. People respond, and it comes all back to everybody and it clogs a thing. And I was trying to avoid that because Apple introduced this new wonderful app called Invites that was supposed to rid me of having to
Mhm.
do that. No, don't use it. Don't. Spare yourself. Go to Evite, go to
So I'm
Punchbowl, go
trying
to
to
Paperless.
right. Trying to put my IT hat on
Mhm.
and do some triage, right? And
Okay.
I'm just talking in the air. I'm not saying you haven't done any of these things.
Okay.
Is there a update to the Apple Invites app since they announced it?
Yes.
And you
And I
and you
updated.
updated as okay. All right.
Correct.
So so fail on that one, right?
Yeah.
Um so the next thing I would think is um I don't know. I beside myself
I
with
thought I was wrong.
bewilderment.
Yeah, I thought I was using it
Mhm,
wrong because I was like, there's no way that
mhm,
if someone RSVP'd yes, that this invitation doesn't show up in their invites app. There's
mhm,
no
mhm,
way that that happens. But no, they didn't get the note that was blasted out. They didn't. And again, when you go into the app, it shows you who RSVP yes, and it says going, and it has this fancy little animation where the names kind of, it's like a circle almost of all of the little icons. So whatever your icon is on your iMessage, whether it's a picture, whether it's just like your initials, however you have it set up, it shows that. So it shows that part is integrated, and it just kind of rotates and it'll pop up, the icon of the person in the going, just like a little fun animation. So if you can pull in that, and if you have an iPhone, why can't you see the invitation even after you
right.
RSVP? Why can't you? Now, I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I could be using it wrong, but I don't think I am because it's fairly straightforward. And that's why I
Mhm,
went and I was Googling the hell out of this thing because I was like,
mhm,
I have to be missing something.
right,
Something, it has to be user error because there's no
right.
way that this is what this is supposed to do and it's not doing it. So much so that I Googled, so how do non Apple people use this thing? And they
Mhm,
said, send the public link to the email. And that didn't do anything. So if someone has used Apple Invite successfully and can say that I did it wrong, please tell me and I'll retract. I have no problem with that. But in my user experience, this is what this was. And I even got a friend's
right.
phone, and because she said she couldn't see the time update. And usually, if you change something in an Evite or any type of invite, if you change the
Globally. Mhm,
or if you change the location, it updates it. And usually it'll send you a
mhm,
notification. Even if it doesn't send you a notification, if you go back in to look at it again, then it should show you, right?
right.
So
Mhm.
I don't know. I personally won't be using it ever again.
Oh, wow, wow, it's that serious. So,
That's serious. It
here's
was a lot of extra work.
so here's what I'm thinking is happening,
Okay.
and it's happened before, with other things, with Apple, other things that Apple have made. I think Apple gets so in the weeds as it relates to data privacy and security that it makes sharing actually complicated, right? Because if you share something, like for instance, in this case, share an event, you want to
Mhm,
create this event and you want to share it to people, right? The privacy and data protection features that Apple is so specific and in the weeds are tends to butt heads with our ability to share and collaborate and organize, right? On
mhm,
a smaller scale, you can see it with Keynote, not so much, but Pages and Numbers and there's a third one. I can't think of the name. But anyway,
Yeah.
those pale in comparison to Microsoft Word, to Google Docs, to all the other features from the Microsoft and Google, right? So much so, we as Apple snobs, we use Google Drive
Mhm.
and we use Gmail, for aspects of our podcast that we're supposed to be Apple snobs for, because it's so easy to share and collaborate in Google
Mhm.
Drive. In iCloud Drive, not so much. I have tried to create links. Like, for instance, if somebody needs some sensitive information from me, I'll try to put it in the Files app, and I'll try to create an iCloud link, and I'll try to share it to somebody for the whole purpose of, I want to be able to show you this thing and then
Mhm.
restrict access, because I don't want to
Mhm.
give it to you. I want to show you something, but I don't want you to
Mhm.
have it. So my whole point is, it never works. It never works the way I want it to, because in order for that to work, you have to share it. Same thing
Mhm.
with numbers, same thing with pages. That's the one. Pages. Trying to collaborate, trying to work as a team in anything Apple related, not so much. And I think that's what the problem we're having here with Apple Invites. You have to create something, you have to share something, and you have to collaborate. The collaborate part aspect of Apple Invites is you share the invite to people, and people have to declare whether they're coming.
Mhm.
And they, I'm assuming there's, like you said, you can share playlists, you can share
Share video
photos,
photos. Yep.
all those things, right? That's the collaboration part of it. And I think Apple's gatekeeping as it relates to data protection and security,
Mhm.
which again, nobody's complaining. That's their thing. That's why we love Apple, because, your data ain't all over the place. In certain
Right.
cases, I want my data in some places. And Apple's like, yeah, we don't do that so well.
But don't sell me on the idea that Apple and non-Apple users can use this. That's one. If you want it to only be for Apple people, fine. That's your decision to make. And two, make it
Mhm.
an an ease of use. Make it something that easily integrates in the ecosystem for existing Apple users, because there's no way, even if you don't have the app, if you're giving people the option of viewing and creating these invites on the iCloud platform, then you should be able to see said invites on the web version, but you
Yep.
don't.
Yep. So
Sad, sad day. Sad, sad day.
I certainly hope this is not what Apple Invites turns into, because, I was definitely looking forward to it. There's some
Yeah.
events that I want to plan. I got kids'
Mhm.
birthdays and Evites, and, I'm already, so the whole point is, I'm already using Apple
Reduce.
devices.
Yeah.
I'm already paying for I'm already paying
I
for the top tier Apple One thing in order to
right.
utilize this stuff. And it would be a shame if I have to say, all right, well, we're planning this Juneteenth event. Let me pull out Evite, which is fine. All you want to do is share information. But I'm an Apple
Right.
snob. I want to, do
And
the
you
Apple
said I could
stuff.
have this and you gave it
Right.
to me. Don't give it
Right.
to me if you don't want me to use it.
Right, right. I'd be interested to see how much hubbub has been going on, because I haven't done any Google, searching and find out what's going on with Apple Invites, because like I don't need it right now. When I need it,
Right.
then I'll do exactly what you did. I'll go through the process. I'll do some trial stuff. I'll look at it on different phones. But it almost like your experience now. It's like I don't even want to do that. I'd rather just go pay for Punch Bowl, pay for their tiered subscription, so I can have all the little features that I thought
Mhm.
I was going to get with
You would
Apple
get
Invites.
with the native app. Yep.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sad day
Hope people
for
have better
Apple
experience than
Invites.
me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm inclined to go try it just to see. It's like that can't. There's no
And I
way.
and I hope someone else tries it and lets me know, because if I did it wrong, that's on me and that's fine. But I'm like, there's no way that it's this bad.
Clunky. Yeah.
It's no way.
Yep. All right. Well, got some homework to do for next time. All
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, that's going to do it for the lowdown. We're going to move into second string where we talk tech in general. It looks like Google has decided that they are going to just track everybody's devices. And basically, what's happening is Apple, or not Apple, sorry, Google rolled out this thing called digital fingerprinting. And basically, what
Mhm.
digital fingerprinting is, think of your fingerprint on your finger that is uniquely specific and unique to you. Same thing with Google's idea of digital fingerprinting. They have a something that can identify each and every device, no matter where you are on the web, no matter what app you're using. They have this thing called a digital fingerprint, and there's this privacy. I'll just read the part. Privacy centric Proton, I'm assuming that's a privacy company, has just released a new report criticizing the spectacular about face as Google gives its advertisers the go ahead to use digital fingerprinting to uniquely identify internet users and track their actions across the web using their mobile devices. And the reason why they say it's an about face, it says this about face followed last year's reversal on cookie deprecation, which has now morphed into a promise, but as yet unscheduled global prompt for users to opt out. It also comes just as a new report that warns Android phones are being silently tracked. So
Hmm.
let me break down what digital fingerprinting is. Proton is UK data regulator. It is the collection of pieces of information about a device's software or hardware, which, when combined, can uniquely identify a particular device and user, warning that we think this change is irresponsible and even privacy conscious users will find this difficult to stop. This is Google. Google is talking that says we think this change is irresponsible and privacy conscious users will find this difficult to stop. Fast forward to today, Apple's like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and turn that on. So I just wanted to make sure all my Google folks out there knew that this data collected from smart devices such as TVs and consoles could
Okay.
include a device's operating system and hardware specifications, as well as network identifiers and a user's browsing behaviors. Unlike cookies, fingerprinting is difficult to detect and block, making it harder to manage your privacy online. So it sounds like I remember back in the day when Google's whole thing was don't be evil. Don't be evil, don't be evil. That
Hmm.
was their whole little slogan. It seems as recent years, Google is kind of like, you know what? We need
They're
to get
Dr.
this
Evil
money.
now. Hmm.
Right. Yeah. So what do you think about this? And should Google people be worried? And I'll kind of give you a little overview of how to stop it if you're concerned. But what are your takes on Google doing this?
So this is only for Android and Google products? Yes?
Yes. So think of
Okay.
Chromecast, think
Okay.
of, Google Pixels, think of Google smartwatches, not Android, Google.
Okay.
So Google
Google.
Pixels, Google
Okay.
smartwatches, Chromecast, any sort of Google TVs with Chromecast built into them, anything with a Google product
Okay.
could be subjected to this digital fingerprinting that is easy for them to track you and hard for you to stop it for tracking you.
So, second question, does this include like software products like Gmail? Like you just mentioned we use um the suite of Google Docs and the is it
Hmm.
included in that
Hmm.
as well? I would presume yes.
It's it says operating system and hardware specifications. So that leads me
So
to
yes.
believe that the hardware and the operating systems that run the hardware, not
Okay.
necessarily
The
web based
software.
products.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, like
That
naturally
makes me
web
feel
based. Yeah.
that makes me feel a little bit better, but I still don't trust it. Um And you can't opt out of this, it sounds like. It sounds like if you use these products, this is what it is. Maybe
They
you
say
can turn it on and off?
Well, they say it's hard. So the story goes on and says, so how to stop it? Browser tracking can be stopped by ensuring cross-site tracking is disabled. Even if tracking cookies themselves are not, you can also opt for browsers that are more privacy centric out of the box to select private browsing. In our tests, Proton says Tor browser and Brave were the best options for evading browser fingerprinting, although these browsers could come with their own drawbacks. Now, the caveat made me smile a little bit. If you're an
Mm.
Apple user, then Safari is fine. I was like, full
Thank
stop.
you very much.
Fi-
So, this
Firefox,
is really
go ahead. Let me finish this last
okay, go for
statement.
it.
Firefox always been seen as more private options, but its PR has taken a major hit in recent weeks. And if, like the majority of Android and Windows users, you're using Chrome, then check your settings and opt for incognito mode for anything sensitive. So, your original
Mhm.
answer, this may not affect Google Suite, this may not affect Google Docs, may not affect, Google Calendar, but it does affect Google Chrome. I'm using Google Chrome right now. So,
'Cause we have to
even if
use
we
it for
are
this
Apple
program that we use to
users,
record the show.
right, there are some things to where you can't avoid using Google Chrome. So,
Right.
even for us Apple fans, we may have to go in and to adjust some settings.
Yeah. This is really it's a little bit scary because it's like an elevated version of cookies,
Hmm.
um, that you right now you can't track it, but I'm sure people like Proton, they have people who are trying to crack this to be able to put some kind of reins on it. But it sounds like this thing is just out here and they're just running with it. And it's similar to me. We talked about it a few weeks ago when not only Google, but other major tech companies rolled back some of their AI ethics. It seems to me as if
Hmm.
a lot of the protections that we've had implemented on our digital life are being systematically
Rolled
rolled
back.
back. And
Hmm.
the problem is that it's so much being rolled back. Something like this could easily go under the radar, and you wouldn't even have a clue that there is something called digital fingerprinting for these Google products because it's just so much coming out and it's so much happening and it's like overwhelm. It's like blitzing. It's just like let's just overwhelm them with stuff. And honestly, this is the perfect time to release something like this because people aren't really focused on this. They're looking at the markets and they're looking at their
The
401k and their
cost of
investments,
eggs.
tanking the cost of eggs, losing. If you were a snubbist supporter, you'd hear the conversation we had about Southwest, but you're losing things that
Hmm.
are you've become used to that have become fixtures that have been cultural staples of our society, and they're being like rolled back every other day, and a lot of times you don't even know it because it's just so much stuff going on that you can't keep up. And something like this affects everybody because
Hmm.
most people's default browser is Google because Google Chrome because Google has so much of a foothold in how we navigate the internet. Any search feature we talked about for any searching software feature, it's called Google.
Hmm.
It could be Bing. It's like in the nomenclature, it's I'll Google it. You might not even be using Google. You might be using something else, but it's Google. And people have their default is to use Chrome as a web browser because forever we've been told it's the best one, it's the easiest one, it's most universally, used. Most products are compatible with Google where they aren't compatible with a Firefox or a Safari or an Opera or Windows Edge or any of those other things, and they've made themselves the number one option. And because they have made themselves a number one option. They can turn this thing on and
Mhm.
just get all sorts of yummy goodness, private data and exploit it at their will.
Yep. And like I even mentioned before, even if you're an Apple fan, you're not safe. So
Mm-mm.
there are some things you may want to turn off in Chrome to make sure that this digital fingerprinting, like you said, an elevated version of cookies, even if you're going to websites and like now, so nowadays when I go to a website, I don't even click accept cookies. I just keep on doing my thing because it's like, if I don't accept the cookies, then I'm safe. Not so much with this digital fingerprinting because,
It
they
almost
can.
makes it a mute point.
Right, right. And they hide it and you got to jump through all these hoops. And another thing you mentioned, like you mentioned, starting to roll a lot of things back. I think companies, it's capitalism. It
Yeah.
all goes back to capitalism. Google and some of these other companies that are rolling back these regulations, they are rolling back all of these safeguards, they are trying to roll back all these regulations is because you can attribute it to this current administration, but it just goes back to just ultimate capitalism. These companies see a opportunity to squeeze another buck out of us. Now we're not paying Google Chrome directly, but we are paying in the sense that we're giving up our data, and Google
Mhm.
is a master of how
Mm.
to squeeze every little dollar out of our data that they can. And how they do it is they use our data to sell it to
To other people
advertisers.
who
So
pay them.
why to pay them handsomely. So I'm not surprised that
Mm-mm.
Google would find another way to track users via
Circumvent. Yeah.
to circumvent, to pile on, to just find another way to figure out how to squeeze more money out of their users. And like you mentioned, Google Chrome is the browser. Like you mentioned, we use this specific software to stream this show. It won't work in any other browser, with the exception of maybe Firefox. So this story may be the catalyst for us to try this on
Change. Yep.
Firefox. But we can't even guarantee it's going to work the way we need it, the way we're accustomed to
To
it
it working.
working. And I say all that to say that Google has done a good job of painting us in a corner to where we have no
Cornering the
other
market.
option. Right. They literally cornered the market on our data. And now they can do whatever because we need Chrome. We
We
can't
can't not use
not
it.
use Chrome. Can't not use it no more. So
I
they're like,
guess
all
you
right,
can, but it would be really hard to figure it
right.
out.
Right. You can't not use it, right? So it's just
Yep.
sad. It's not surprising, but it is. If this is true, again, this came from Forbes. I'm reading this out of Forbes. Forbes is a respectable publication. I have no
Mhm.
reason to believe that they're biased towards Google and they're just got an axe to grind, that sort of thing.
Mm.
So I'm inclined to believe that Google rather, is just like, hey, we're going to turn this thing off and see what people say. And if we're not paying attention, or if we are so used to the convenience of Google Chrome that we just ignore it, a win for Google, I suppose.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so that's going to do it for second string. We're going to move into For the Culture, where we talk anything culturally relevant. So I have been on a mission to make sure that I am supporting the communities, supporting the products, supporting things that I believe in, that value me as a end user, as a customer. We
Mhm.
have been hearing about social media in particular, how Twitter has kind of gone off the rails. We've talked about that ad nauseum. We've talked about Meta and Mark Zuckerberg and his whole bro culture that he's embraced, that has rolled back protections as far as monitor mediation, as far as child safety. We've talked about Instagram, that they change their algorithm every 2 seconds, and they've got
Mhm.
their own issues as it relates to privacy, specifically as it relates to teens. We've
Mhm.
talked about TikTok and the whole ban that they've got going on. So I am like, all right, so where do I go to where I am protected and to where I am appreciated
Valued.
because and valued, right? So, I have been for the past, I'd say, couple of months, have been investing all my time in Spill.
Mhm,
Spill is a black owned black owned social media app that, centers our culture. It centers
mhm,
our conversations. It puts us at the center. It's not as of yet, right? Because they need to make money just like everybody else. It's not influencer based like
mhm,
YouTube and TikTok and some of these other social media platforms, to where it is very enticing for you to get on and stay on these apps because you're trying to generate income, right? I
mhm,
get it. I get it 100%. The gatekeepers are gone. You no longer have to go to a 9 to 5 job. You no longer have to hate a 9 to 5 job if you are creative enough to be able to use these platforms to make money. I
mhm,
am not one of those people. I don't need social media to make money. I don't need social media to be an influencer. I don't need to use social media to pay for ads and market out to a bunch of people, and do all those things.
mhm.
I used to be. Now I've reverted back to being a social media user.
Okay.
I want to check on what my friends are doing. I want to find out what's going on in the world. I want to talk to and converse with people who share my experiences, share my culture, all the things, right? I'm saying
Mm.
this whole spill to
Pun
promote
intended.
right, pun intended, to promote the Spill app for users out there who are like me. You're looking for a place to where it's not a bunch of bots, and it's not a bunch of influencers,
Hate.
and it's not a bunch of hate, and it's not a bunch of arguing back and forth. People are sharing their interests, and people are joining in. They're sharing information, and people are joining in, right? So
Mhm,
that's one of the reasons why, or those are all the reasons why I like Spill. They're
mhm.
doing so well, so much so that they have decided to open up investing in Spill to the public. And the way they're doing it is through a crowdfunding investing app called WeFunder. So I've put a
Okay.
link in the show notes to where, if you are interested, if you share my same sentiments and you're tired of the regular rigmarole of Spill, not only would I invite you to check it out, they've got iPhone and Android, I would also implore you to look into investing in Spill while they're at the ground floor. So I put a link in the show notes to where you can find out all the information as it relates to everything that Spill is doing, as far as how much money they've raised, some of their uh, what's the word? Some of their not
Initiatives?
initiatives, some of their achievements is the word I was looking
Oh,
for.
okay.
Some of their achievements, and they're opening it up to invest for investors, public investors. You don't have to be an accredited investor. You don't have to be a venture capitalist. You don't have to have millions of dollars. With this investment round for the public, they are trying to raise 1.2 million. That's their goal. But you can invest a minimum of $250. And then you can actually not only be on the social media app, but you can take ownership. That's one of the things that I think they're doing a good job of, is they are opening up the app so people feel a sense of ownership, even if you're not if you even if you don't want to invest.
Mhm,
The way the app runs, the way the moderation works, you can tell that those people over there love that platform, and
mhm.
they feel a sense of ownership. So I appreciate that they are actually making it possible for you to actually become a part of ownership as far as an investment is concerned. So
Right.
not really
And
a
these are
conversation. I definitely, if
yeah,
you want to chime in, but this is just a promotion, basically.
yeah. So the founders of Spill are former Twitter employees. Um,
Hmm.
and the app itself is not like your typical microblogging site. It's
Hmm.
a lot of image focus as well. So when you go onto the app, you don't see, just, text after text after text. A lot of it is, image based, and then you add a caption to it. So it's not like Instagram, it is not like Twitter. It's kind of like a bit of a hybrid in the way it looks, I mean. And it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things where the people, the black and brown people who created this, they went into, it appears, they went into creating this from the perspective of being people of color, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's black people or other people of color. It it seems to me the way their ethos about this app is keeping that firmly in the forefront of
Mm-hmm.
how they want this app to look, feel, interact, and the way they want you to feel using this app. They don't want you to feel drained and just like harassed and just seeing negative, negative, negative. It To me, it doesn't appear to be that way. I was on Spill relatively early in the process. I got a code from somebody that I know on Twitter and joined before it was really open to the public. But it's one of those things where, especially in our community, when I say our, I mean black community, is a lot of, well, we need to do our own. We don't need to go to this person or that person's, thing. Why can't we create our own thing? Well, they have created our own thing, and are people using
Mm-hmm.
our own thing? You can still be on Twitter if you like, but you can still use this app as well. And the more that you use
Mm-hmm.
it, whether it's this or Blue Sky, because Blue Sky is pretty much a Twitter clone to an extent. So when we talk about for us by us, this is an opportunity to support a for us by us.
Yep. Yep. I agree 100%. And also, not to be exclusionary, they also center
Hmm.
LBGTQIA stuff as well. So,
Hmm.
all of the lingo, any sort of community as it relates to that as well, you can definitely see that in the forefront as well. So I definitely wanted to shout that out as well.
I mean, it's
And
called
again, just
spill, and
reiterates the point,
in the LGBT community, it's usually spill and tea, and that's when you're kind of talking about what's going on, what
mhm,
you heard around the curb. That's kind of like
gossiping. Yeah.
that's kind of
Hmm.
like the nomenclature around that was started in the
Yeah.
gay community.
Sure.
So
Hmm. Yep, yep. So yeah, just wanted to shout them out and wanted to give people the opportunity. And it's not no slouch app either.
no,
Nika kind of highlighted how it's image based, but it's also heavy GIF, not gift, GIF
GIF.
based, or is it GIF? I'm sorry, GIF based. You can add video as well. They are slowly. I think, and this is just personal opinion. I think the reason why Spill hasn't hit groundswell yet is because of the whole influencer thing. I
Mm,
think a lot of people are really focusing, really working on, I need to build my community. And
mhm,
I've already worked so hard and I've amassed X amount of followers or subscribers or whatever the case may be. And I don't want to do that again. Or either that, or I'm trying to get my start. And I
mhm.
know that based on other influencers, Instagram and TikTok is the place to be. So let me go over there and let me brand myself, right?
Build an audience and hope they come with
Building,
me over here too.
right. That part, they Spill had their not an open house. What's the other word? State of the Union is for lack of a
Mm,
better term. Earlier this week. And those are the things that they're working on, but they're doing it very carefully because what you don't want to happen is a bunch of people coming over
mm,
just on follow me for my cooking masterclass, or follow
mm.
me if you want to take this flat tummy tea and become snatched like me, right? That's none of that over there. But from whether it be fitness, whether it be cooking, whether it be whatever the case may be, this app for now is centered on, community, and not your own
Community.
community, the community of the users of the app.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
having said that, they're working very, like I mentioned, they are working on being able to get the ability for end users to figure out how they can create their own communities that they can then have people subscribe to, or whatever the case may be. But it's not there from the beginning, and I think
Mhm.
a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people are waiting, but I picture it in my head that once Phil Spill figures out how they can do their own version of influencer, to where you
An
can
influencer
generate,
program.
right, to where you can generate some sort of revenue, income, whatever the case may be. I guarantee you all these people are going to come over, and I attribute it to you are either a party starter, or you are the type of person that says who all going to be there. who all gonna who all gonna be there is kind of like, all right, I ain't coming unless the party's jumping,
Unless the
every
vibe is right.
everything is lit,
Yeah.
bottles and all that. So, oh, now I'm coming, and now you're complaining because the line is long and it costs
Mhm.
too much, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Versus, I'm gonna start attributing myself to be a party starter. It's like, all right,
Mhm.
I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to get the party started. I'm gonna
Yeah.
play the play the music. I'm gonna get on the dance floor. I'm not gonna sit and wait for the party to start jumping, for like, you know what, this is a good party. No, we
Yeah.
need party starters. And this is
Yeah.
all the way back to the main point. This is an opportunity to invest in, and this is an opportunity to join a social media app that's doing good. It ain't like just some
Mhm.
Rudy Poot app. They are
Right.
competing. They are competing with the likes of Blue Sky. They're competing with the likes of, some of these, even Threads, for example. Now, Threads
Threads,
got millions and millions of
Mastodon. Yeah.
Mastodon, all those, to where everybody's trying to find their place. So
Yeah.
I don't want people to look at it as that's just a throwaway app, whatever. They've got a lot of people. I'm over there on a regular. I post a show over there on the regular because, like I said, I want to be in on the ground floor, and I think this is a dope opportunity. So I just wanted to shout out to the folks over at Spill and share the good news of what's going on over there.
Nice.
All right, so that's going to do it for the culture. Real quick, we're going to move into the hookup. We bad mouthed Siri at the beginning of the show, so now it's only right that we show them some love. So for the hookup, I use Apple Notes exclusively. I don't use any sort of note taking app. I don't use any sort of journal, any
Mhm.
sort of notes. I use the Apple Notes app exclusively, and I'm constantly using Siri for basic commands. Like I said, we talked at the top. Siri ain't ready for the big show yet, as far as Apple Intelligence is concerned, but they do a good job of doing prompts to where you can send it a command and it'll complete that command. So one of the commands I wanted to show you for the hookup is the ability to use Siri to take quick notes. So instead of you unlocking your phone, opening the Notes app, starting a new note, my hookup for the week is you can use Siri and the prompt note. For example, if I wanted to, somebody, I'm out in public and somebody wants to give me their phone number, instead of me unlocking my phone and sending them a text message or call them or whatever, I can say, hey, homegirl,
Person.
note this phone number, and you spell out the phone number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. Siri will get the prompt, open up a note, and automatically put whatever you say after note this, right? Or note my mom is coming in town and I need to make sure the guest room is ready. So it'll create the note and open all that stuff up, versus, like I mentioned, you unlocking your phone, opening the Notes app, starting a new
And
note,
typing.
and actually typing in. So that
Hmm.
is my hookup for the week. If you're still trying to use Siri, if you're still trying to hold on, you still uh
Use it for what
hoping
she's
that
good
Apple
for.
delivers
Just
on
use
their,
her what she got going
right,
on now.
right. In the meantime, in between time, you can definitely use Siri to do quick things like taking notes. So that is my tip for the week, and that will do it for this week's show. Nica, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere.
And you can find me all over the web at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. If you want to follow the show, please go to snoboscast.com and get all of those details. And until next week, we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.